Dandava Pranam, Garuda Prabhu.
My pranams. Good to see you.
Likewise, Prabhu.
Well, my relationship, as you know, goes way back to 1973,
Hmm.
and that's where I first met Swamiji. Of course, I knew him simply as Madhava, and pretty much the whole time I knew him back in those days, it was Madhava Das.
Yes.
And he was in the Washington D.C. temple and down on Q Street. It was near DuPont Circle in Washington D.C. And I lived in the ashram building on 22nd Street, I believe it was, which is perpendicular to Q Street and about several blocks down. Rupanuga was also there at the time, and he was Rupanuga Das Swami, and but he changed ashrams with Prabhupada's permission and blessings during that time, I remember. But yeah, I very much looked up to Madhava at the time. Of course, he's shorter than I am, so I looked down, but I looked up on a spiritual level. He was a senior to me, still is senior to me, and yeah, there was that. I mean, I'll never forget it. I mean, I've been teaching ever since. I don't know how many thousands of lectures I've been giving over the years in the university and at the Smithsonian and universities around the world, in different devotional venues and so on. But it all started with Madhava encouraging me to give Bhagavad-gita class one evening at the temple.
Hare Krishna.
Very scary. I think I was more scared then than any other time. In fact, I was invited to Robbinsville, New Jersey, where BAPS is, the Swami Narayan group.
Sure, they're right around the
And
corner
just,
from us.
oh, yeah, right. It's right around the corner. Exactly. I was invited there years ago when they first unveiled their commentary, their first original commentary to the Vedanta Sutra, Brahma Sutra. And I was there with some other scholars, and they had 6,000 people there, and too big for inside a building. So it was outside. It was a beautiful day. And that was a little, a little daunting. It was in front of their head swami and, all the other attending, leading swamis and so on, and so on. And so you could say that was a little daunting, 6,000 people. Well, the 5 people that were there in the Bhagavad Gita class in 1973 was probably scarier for me. So it was my first time, of course, giving a class, pretty much of any kind. And I remember Madhava was afterwards, first of all, I don't think it was a particularly good class. I mean, to be perfectly honest, okay? But Madhava was so encouraging. He was so sweet and so encouraging. And probably if he said very honestly, yeah, that class you just gave, Garuda, was very bad. I probably would never have gone into academics and never gone anywhere, but he was so encouraging, and there was always a very sweet nature about Madhava back in those days, as well as very philosophically pointed. So he had this interesting combination of being really a gentleman on the one hand and philosophically assertive on the other hand. And I think that speaks of his character probably to this day.
Sure.
You know, um, at least, well, when I was on the that Zoom meeting with Frank Clooney and Swamiji that time,
Yeah.
were you there? You were
I
hosting
was,
it.
yes, I was there, Prabhu.
You were hosting it, right?
Yes,
Okay. Yeah.
under
So
Maharaja's
Frank,
guidance.
you're right, right. Well,
May I introduce myself at this point?
Oh,
Please.
Madhava Puri Maharaj.
Salam,
Greetings. Greetings.
how are you? So nice to see
Good.
you again after
Yeah.
so many years, huh?
Many, many, many moons ago. 1,000 dog years, I think, at least. Yeah.
Yes. And Father Clooney, also my pranam to you.
Namaskar.
And Henry, I've heard about you through Krishna Kesava.
Namaste.
Pranam, namaste. So I was very nice to hear you said about Vedanta. The last word of Vedanta is subjute. Huh?
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, there's maybe controversy about this, but subjute has a very special meaning. Huh? You know that? What is your understanding of subjute?
Yeah. No, Shabda, you're referring to the yeah, okay.
Shabdat.
Right.
But
In the ablative, Shabdat, right? Shabda, right? Yeah.
What is your understanding of that word?
My particular understanding?
Yes.
Well, it can have so many layers. Sound in some basic denotative sense, and connotatively referring to the Vedas, and even further connotatively, revelation, the power of sound to reveal reality.
And
that's just off the top of my head.
Subjute, as I understand from Prabhupada's and Bhaktivedanta Thakur's and Pars's comments on it, means the sound that descends. It's a descending sound. And not the sound that we make. It's the sound that is made from the absolute platform and that descends to this world. Descending sound.
As in Revelation, right?
As in Revelation, exactly.
Right.
The meaning of Revelation is what is revealed, is what is already there, but is made known to us. So the truth is not something we have to invent or create.
Right.
Truth is something that we live.
Yes.
That is there always.
Nice.
And our efforts are to expose ourselves, to be exposed to that, to remove the coverings that prevent us from knowing that truth.
You know, Frank and I have known each other for decades, and about when Swamiji came on and spoke, his warmth, came through so sweetly and so appreciatively, and just I just kind of went back 50 years to that time and in my first class. So he probably doesn't realize or even appreciate the impact it had on me back then, but then again, students realize the effect of a teacher far more than the teacher does, and this is the way Krishna works. He allows our natural capacities as bhaktas to shine. At the same time, there's an instrumentality factor where Krishna uses bhaktas to channel grace through them to others. So this is, I think, it's obvious to students more than to the actual teachers themselves, and one never knows how much one influences and affects the lives of one's students. So that's. So there's embodiment and there's instrumentality. There's the uniqueness of Swami Maharaj. He's his own person. There's no one like him. At the same time, there's so much grace that comes through him. So embodiment and instrumentality. Prabhupada says, Guru is one. And the reason he asserted that is because Guru appears to be very different all over the place. So, and gurus are different. Different teachers of Krishna Bhakti teach in certain ways, other ways. They have different personalities. They excel in different areas, and so on. And from Swamiji, he excelled in sound intellectual thinking, in science. His doctorate from Georgetown University, where I just came and spoke. I just spoke there a week ago, actually. And but thinking back on how he earned his doctorate in, I believe it was chemistry,
Quantum chemistry.
quantum chemistry.
Yeah, so he had to learn quantum physics and then, how that applies to molecules. And that was the whole reason he came to the DC ISKCON temple, because the problems in quantum mechanics not recognizing consciousness, and he knew yogis did. So let's go find some yogis.
Yeah, yeah, it's amazing. I don't regret to tell you that I have never spoken one word about science to Swamiji or he to me. So we we always kept it very theological because that's my area, you know. So he never really, had the science discussion with me. But I do remember his participation in the Bhaktivedanta Institute in 1977.
Prabhu, may I just interject for one moment?
Yeah, sure, sure.
Before we get too far away from you mentioning the instrumentality of the devotees, that point is something that Sripad Puri Maharaj's values so much. He always tells me about this Gita verse 11.33, where the phrase nimitta matram is used, where he tells Arjuna, don't worry about what's going through your mind. This
Yeah.
is already decided. You're just my instrument, nimitta matra.
Yes.
And this is so, Maharaj always emphasizes this point to me.
Yes. Nice. Nice. Nimitti matram. Yes. Matram, a measure that's in a sense a measure that's immeasurable. In effect. Yeah. Beautiful. Beautiful. But you see, that speaks to Swamiji's keen philosophical acuity and his love for the philosophy. So that has always been the case. I mean, anyone who knew him back in those days perceived that. So there's nothing new in my saying that. But I mean, it was just so evident at the time. Yeah, and when he was up in Boston. That's the other time that I was really sort of living around him. My first year at Harvard, that was 1977. And the Bhaktivedanta Institute had a room. Back then, the temple, the Boston Temple, 72 Commonwealth Avenue, had a next door building. They owned the building next door, 70 Commonwealth Avenue.
Mm.
Which was not in very good shape. It was quite roach infested and rather unpleasant in that regard, but that's another story. Anyway, the Bhaktivedanta Institute lived in the front room on the second floor. I lived in the front room on the third floor.
Mm.
Okay? So for me to go anywhere, I'd have to pass by the Bhaktivedanta Institute. And I couldn't help but, I couldn't resist just as I'm going somewhere, I just decided, just to walk in and see what Swarup Damodar was doing, and Sadaputta and Madhava. They all stayed together in that room. It was a big room. I mean, it was a big room with it had I think a bay window in the front, and you could overlook Commonwealth Avenue from that window and so on. And I remember Madhava's desk was, when you walk in, he was to the right of the door. He had a desk right there as you enter. And I remember him sort of leaning back, sitting, and as I walked in, I can remember him smiling at me while Siddhaputta and Bhakti and Swarup Damodar were kind of arguing, which they would do a lot of. Okay, so Madhava was like the neutral, person there, and he was always tried to be the peacemaker, and never engaged in any kind of conflictual situation, at least of which I was aware. He always seemed to be the one to be, again, he maintained a gentlemanly demeanor, but he also, would smile at what seemed to be a kind of futile situation. He would smile and chuckle at the same time, and which said to me at the time, like, "This is pretty hopeless, but I'm going to keep trying." So this is kind of the mood that I remember Madhava having at the time. Excuse me. This was the year, of course, when Prabhupada departed.
Yes. Yes.
And he was there, and Srip Damodar was there. Now, I didn't take many japa walks with Madhava in the mornings. Not sure why. I think he was pretty much a serious, reclusive chanter at the time. I'm pretty sure. But anyway, I would take morning japa walks with Srip Damodar every morning. Mm. And this was a nice thing. We used to walk through the Boston Gardens and to the Boston Commons. One morning it was a little dangerous. I think when we got back, I told Madhava about how these three drunkards were trying to attack us, and how Srip Damodar was completely oblivious to it. And I was rushing him away. He didn't know why I was pushing him. And anyway, it was an awkward situation. But, those were the days. I remember I drove all three of them to Cambridge, not to Harvard Square or Harvard, but to a printer to publish the first three booklets. Two were written by, I think, Siddhaputta, and one by Srip Damodar.
The monographs.
The monographs.
Oh.
I don't think Madhava contributed a monograph at that time.
Yes.
But am I wrong in that?
Yes, this is for the Life Comes from Life conference.
That's right.
He helped to create them, but he wasn't an author. That's my understanding.
That's right. That's my understanding as well. That's right. But I drove all three of them to the printer to pick up the first, batch of books. And that was, a rather dramatic moment, because this was the BI producing something. And that really is like Madhava back then. He was so supportive. He never pushed himself to the front. He allowed others to do that. He always was very, very sort of subservient that way. And I think he saw his service that way. But anyway, that's the way it appeared to me to be.
Well, he remained that way till this very day.
Yeah. Well, I'll see when I'm talking to him. I'll see if he's still that way. I mean, let's not jump here. Okay. Anyway, he also, by the way, he could also have a good sense of humor. He was always most of the time pretty jovial, and he just never seemed to be how do you say pushed around by the gunas. He's always of a jovial nature, and yet could be, again, like I said, very serious and philosophically pointed, and very grounded in our Krishna Bhakti philosophy, which I always appreciated. So those were the times, and when Prabhupada departed, of course, the temple had a huge memorial for Prabhupada, and the BBT sent out a series of slides that we would show the guests. And I don't remember Madhava during this event, but I'm sure he remembers the event, where 4 of my Harvard professors actually came to the temple to honor Prabhupada's departure. Harvey Cox, John Carmen, Diana Eck. Was there someone else? Maybe just 3. But anyway, what had happened is I received the call from Romapad, who was not Swami at the time, Romapad Brahmachari, in New York, who had received the news from Vrindavan that Prabhupada had left this world. And I was chanting in the front hall of the temple, I remember, And the phone rang at like 6 in the morning, which it doesn't usually ring 6 in the morning. And Romapad gave me the news, and I just was stunned. I mean, and so I told the temple president at the time the news, and he made the announcement, and I retreated into my third story room for 2 weeks, and I did not attend class, which, by the way, just not showing up for class at Harvard is not advisable. I mean, and when I finally came back, Professor Carmen said, "Are you all right? Where have you been? We've been missing you." And I said, to be perfectly straightforward with you, I was in a state of mourning, the departure of my spiritual master, Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada and he said, "Oh my gosh," he was very, gracious about receiving that. And then when this event came up about a week or so later at the temple, I invited. I said, "I don't know if you can come," but he came and he invited Diana and I think Gary Tubb came. I think that's the other one. I think Gary Tubb came and Harvey Cox came. So it was terribly a strain for me, seeing all these slides about Prabhupada and then having my Harvard professors there seemed to be a strange mix. But I bet Swamiji remembers that event. I've never spoken to him of it, but that would be an interesting memory, what he would remember,
Well, at the time of Srila Prabhupada's departure, at that time, Madhava Das had become the regional director of the new BI in Mumbai. And so he, and actually, he
wasn't there.
I don't think he was there.
Interesting.
And he was unable to come to Vrindavan to visit Prabhupada at the time of his departure because he actually had malaria in Mumbai.
Oh my goodness. Oh my God.
So he was locked down.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Okay. So that's why I don't remember him at that event. He wasn't there. That's right. Okay. That makes sense now. That makes sense. Yeah, because, Madhava would have been the person I would have, kind of hung on to had he been there. And I'm just, thinking back now and wondering why I didn't. And now I know why, because he wasn't there. But Swarup Damodar and Sadaputta were there, I believe. I think they were there. Anyway, again, how many years later? It's a long time, so it's hard to recall everything. But yes, Swamiji, yes, took a position in Mumbai for the BI.
Prabhu?
Yeah.
I actually, I have a video of some things I put together from those Boston days.
Oh.
Can I show you the first 5 minutes of it?
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Okay, let's see.
You're going to share the screen?
Yes,
Okay.
I am.
Okay.
So the reason I had made this video 2 years ago was because it turns out, from what I could gather from the database of Srila Prabhupada's letters and some audio recordings, that I believe the BI started their Boston office because Madhava Prabhu was already there preaching at MIT. And there are some letters from Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada confirming this, and even an audio where Sripad Ambarish Prabhu,
Yeah.
he was speaking with Srila Prabhupada and some other devotees before he formally gave money to purchase that next door building for the BI. And he says in that audio, which is included in this first 5 minutes, I think the BI is going to move to Boston. Madhava is currently there. And so he was already, starting the preaching there, and this is where he met George Wald. And then he met George Wald and sent Georgie at MIT And that's where he first planted the seed. He said, instead of thinking that life comes from matter, why not think the opposite, that matter comes from life? And St. George said, so of course these are both Nobel laureates, St. George and George Wald. St. George said, no, that's too difficult. And he disappeared. And then George Wald, we find out a few years later, took it seriously, because then he contacted the BI. And I've been doing my best to try to find any records of that. And there's still some searching to do. But I haven't been able to find the point where he reached out to either Swarup Damodar Maharaj or to Madhava Puri Maharaj. But we know that he ended up there in the 80s in Mumbai with them both, because we have pictures and some BI bulletins. So at some point, that meeting in Boston, where he said, matter comes from life, translated to, in the early 80s, George Wald was visiting them at least twice. We have recordings.
That's really something. Thanks for recounting that. Very, very interesting.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Yeah.
So I hope the audio, right, and let me make sure I'm doing this properly. The audio has to share too. Actually, it doesn't, it does matter, because it's going to have share, and then advanced share settings. No, gosh. Share, I have to click, right? Yes, and then share audio. Oh, there it is, share sound. Okay. Okay, this should work. We're not getting any audio, huh?
Yeah, I can't.
Oh, there we go.
Hear something. Okay, here we go.
How can we explain to the scientist how gross matter is being produced from subtle matter and ultimately from life, from consciousness? If a scientist were looking at the creation occurring,
every scientist knows that originally the sky, the sound, and from the sound, then what is air? What is the process of creation from subtle to gross?
You say that the living entity, he's thinking about a particular kind of body and a particular activity.
Not particular body, particular desire.
Particular desire.
And according to the desire, Krishna is giving him facility through the material machine to give him a particular type of body.
If I desire, say,
whatever you desire.
If I desire something to appear here now.
Huh?
If I desire something to come here.
Yeah, you'll remain here as insect.
If I desire a plate of prasadam to appear here.
And then he'll go to Vaikuntha.
How do I do it? If I just desire, how is it that...
Yes, by desire you are creating everything. Why these material varieties? Desire. In the spiritual world also, varieties.
Does the scientist actually observe something external to his mind, or does he only observe...
Speculation.
Only in his mind?
That's all. Just like you cannot see actually what is beyond the wall, and there is some sound, you can simply speculate. This sound is due to this sound is due to this sound is due to this, but you have no clear knowledge. This is called speculation.
was purchasing the building next door, I gave them some money for a down payment so they could buy the building next door to use it to house people that are living in the restaurant, and also for the Bhaktivedanta Institute. Because I think the Bhaktivedanta Institute is going to be in Boston. Madhava is there.
Yes.
And
Boston is a nice place.
It is the educational center, right, of the United States.
So the rest of that video is about George Wald.
Yeah.
But just that first 5 minutes just shows, Sripad Bhakti Madhava Puri Maharaja's role in establishing Boston. So
Yeah, wonderful. That's nice to see. All of it. Yeah.
sorry.
Yeah.
And then when he transitioned to Mumbai, by Krishna's grace, we finally get to see a plethora of publications come from Maharaj.
Right.
I'll just share. We were able to. So I actually. So these Bhaktivedanta Institute bulletins were made by Maharaj in the 80s, and they were bound together, and he ended up giving them to a devotee named Pranashish Prabhu in the SCS Mutt, who held on to them in Ireland for like 30 years. And then maybe 10 years ago, some devotees were visiting Ireland before coming to New Jersey to see Maharaj, and they got those bulletins and brought them back here. And so we were able to digitize them, and there's so many wonderful articles from many devotees, from so many devotees, including that Srila Tirtha Swami, who was a graduate of Princeton and a psychology major at Princeton, and
Bhakti Tirtha.
yes, Bhakti Tirtha Swami,
Yeah,
he has some contribution here, and there's such a variety of nice things, and we see so many articles from Madhava Puri Maharaj here.
Yeah.
And so from my perspective as a student, his student, I feel like this is a treasure trove.
Oh, yeah.
So I just wanted to share that also. And then
Nice.
George Wald. But,
Really nice. Oh, yeah.
so
Wonderful. Wonderful. I'm glad it was put together. That's good news.
yeah. Otherwise, no way they would have standed the test of time.
That's right.
Right.
Or just, get yellowed and so on. So it's good that you digitize them and then put them together. It's marvelous. Compile them. Yep, that's wonderful.
So sorry for interjecting. While we were at this point in the timeline, I wanted to share those things.
No, this is helpful to me to put these sort of things together, what was going on, because I missed some of it. I never saw Madhava in his role in Mumbai, but my mother did. So that is sort of an irony. My mother came to India, and I'm trying to figure out what year that was. I think it was 1984. No, I can't quite place it calendrically, but I think it was somewhere in the mid 80s. She came to Mumbai to adopt a daughter, and she was 50 years old at the time. So she wanted to adopt a little Indian girl, and she had some connections through her coming to the temple in the Potomac, Maryland, Washington, D.C. temple. The temple, of course, had moved out to Potomac, Maryland. She knew some Indian congregational members that had connections in Mumbai and in Gujarat, and particularly, I think, Ahmedabad, where there was an orphanage and so on. Anyway, it was a 4-month process I think the first 3 months, she just was kind of waiting for paperwork and so on and so forth. So she lived at the Juhu temple. And, what was she to do all day long, right? And, of course, she came to the morning program, and Giriraj was there, and Giriraj used to take her on some speaking engagements. So she would get dressed in a sari, she would wear tilak, and Giriraj said that, well, your name is Nanette, but that's not, Nanette Schweig Hoffman, that no one will be able to relate to that. So he gave her the name Nandi. So gave her the name Nandi. I don't know if Madhava ever knew that, but Madhava was there, and that was one of her most memorable times or aspects of being in Mumbai in the Juhu temple, was not only going to the morning program and hearing Giriraj Swami speak and give class. I think Madhava must have also have given class too. So she probably heard him speak, but she used to have little visits with Madhava. And she would write me back saying, apparently this one devotee by the name of Madhava Das, and he's here, and he is just a wonderful person. And wow, okay, so my mother's really enjoying the company of devotees. But I knew that this wasn't any devotee. This was Madhava, So I was so happy that she wasn't with some, you don't know what you get in the mass of devotees. I mean, anyone can become a member of the Krishna movement. So it was just wonderful that she was able to meet Madhava, and this just elevated her appreciation of Krishna bhakti and the practices that she knew I was always, engaged in for so long. So it was good. It was good. Madhava was good PR for me and my family. So that was good. But she really appreciated him as a person.
Yeah.
And she said they had really thoughtful and reflective talks. And again, she noted what a consummate gentleman he was, as well as a deep thinker. So these seem to be, appropriate ways of characterizing Swamiji. So back in the day.
Prabhu, may I ask, do you have a stepsister from Mumbai that's still
Yes, I
here?
do. Yeah. So she eventually got, by the third month, end of the third month, I believe, she adopted a little baby girl of only 4 months of age from this orphanage in Gujarat. She brought her back to Mumbai so as to get the papers all done and all that sort of thing. And she used to bring her daughter to a Bhagavatam class. And, as infants are wont to do, they make little noises and whatever.
Sure.
And Giriraj would give her a stern look like, this is not acceptable. So she would kind of chuckle and then go elsewhere with the baby. But she was so strict about coming to Bhagavatam class that she brought the baby. But
it's wonderful.
Some sannyasis are intolerant of infants in their class and the natural noises that they will make. It wasn't that she was crying or, raising her voice. Just little gurgly sounds was annoying to Giriraj at the time. So she sort of smiled and chuckled and acknowledged, okay, I'll leave, and that sort of thing. So, that was her experience of bringing the baby. I don't know if Madhava ever saw her with the child at the time. I don't have any information about that, but then eventually, she got on the plane with her and brought her back and raised her. So,
thank you so much for sharing these things, Prabhu.
Yeah,
Really, really.
I mean, it's not a lot, Krishna Keshavaji. It's not a lot, but what there was so sweet and good and memorable, and especially that first Bhagavad-gita class is, he'll never understand and appreciate what that was for me at the time and how everything seemed to follow that from then on. So I don't know he could ever fully grasp that. And why would he? Why should he? Because you know, he was a teacher to so many people. He was an example and a lover of Krishna bhakti philosophy and science. And people, just devotees, naturally respected him. He didn't have to demand respect at all. It was sort of natural, and he, of course, he was always short but short, but his smile was bigger than his height. So I just know for a fact that many devotees so much appreciated him and enjoyed being in his presence. Yeah.
There's one verse in Chaitanya Charitamrita where when Maharaj received sannyas from Srila Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Maharaj and his name changed to Bhakti Madhava Puri,
right?
The reason was because Srila Sridhar Maharaj saw the qualities of Madhavendra Puri from our that's how this is what I've been told,
Yeah.
So there's one verse in Chaitanya Charitamrita, Jaya Shri Madhava Puri Krishna Prema Pura Bhakti Kalpa Tarur Tenho Pratama Ankura. It says, so it's in the part of Chaitanya Charitamrita where it's about the tree of Chaitanya and the different branches are the different devotees.
Yeah. Isn't that the 17th chapter of Adi Lila?
Very well might be.
Okay.
I'm not familiar I've fallen Kali Yuga memory. But that verse is saying that Madhavendra Puri is the root of that bhakti tree. So whenever I hear stories, because it's also my experience that my devotional life was inspired by Bhakti Madhava Puri Maharaj.
Yeah.
So whenever I hear similar stories of how he played a role at the beginning of somebody's spiritual life, I think of that verse because,
The root. Yeah, that's right. That's right. Nice. I appreciate that reflection, Krishna Keshavaji. Very much so. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, a devotee like Swamiji is someone that is going to be part of other devotees, Krishna Bhakti building blocks. He'll always be someone who has contributed so sweetly and meaningfully to a devotee's devotional life, for sure. And that's the way, not just myself, I've seen his effect on other devotees along the way, back in those, early days, So I speak with some authority on that. Yeah.
Certainly, Prabhu.
Yeah.
So before we, I guess, reach the end of the interview,
Sure.
I wanted to ask you, something personal about your publications that I remember from the last time you spoke with Maharaj.
Yeah.
So when I came to Maharaj, I was practicing that Ashtanga yoga, and then it transitioned to bhakti for me. And he always encouraged me to keep my body strong for service through keeping the yoga. And I remember hearing something very exciting from you. That you were working on a Krishna conscious Yoga Sutra book.
Yes.
So I'm wondering, how is that coming, Prabhu? Because I want to read it.
Okay. Well, you and countless other people. Well, the recent book,
Hare Krishna.
The Yoga of Love,
Yes.
has just come out with Oxford University Press. And maybe I can get a copy to you and for Swamiji. So this is sort of a revision of my original book published by Princeton University Press, right down the street from you.
Hare Krishna.
But yes, the Yoga Sutra is to be published by Yale University Press.
Yes.
And I have all the materials in pieces, but they have to be put together.
Huh.
And I think I'm hopeful to do that by the first of the new year,
Okay.
and to submit it for publication, which means it would come out during 2026. So as soon as I get a copy myself, I'll send one to you.
Forgive me.
Yeah, no, because I circulate a lot in the yoga circle, in the centers and various yoga circles. And I have the ERYT 500 status. You know about Yoga Alliance and all that,
I
right?
did.
So I have the ERYT 500. I have the highest registration with Yoga Alliance. I've been recognized that way. I also came to Krishna Bhakti through Ashtanga yoga practice. When I was 13 years old, I started practicing and reading yoga philosophy very seriously. At age 14, I became a serious practitioner. 15, I was practicing so seriously, I asked my parents if I could drop out of high school. And I became a strict vegetarian, and when I knew no one who was a vegetarian, I knew not one person who was a vegetarian, and I did drop out of high school.
Wow.
Much to my parents' dismay, but they had faith that I would do something with it, And so I ended up going back to college a year earlier than my peers.
Ah.
By Krishna's arrangement.
You got a GED.
No, I wasn't. I was too. That's what Johns Hopkins asked me to get, is go, we need a GED. And I had to be, where I was living in Washington, D.C., you had to be 19 and a half back then. See, GEDs, I never even heard of a GED. No one back then heard of GEDs. It was a rare, shall we say, thing to resort to. If you just had so much problem getting through high school, then, at 19 and a half age, in Washington, D.C., you could take the GED and finally progress forward. Well, I was only 15 or 16 at the time, and I said, I'm not going to wait 3.5 years. And so somehow, miraculously, I got into Johns Hopkins. No one really knows how. Anyway, and don't you be thinking, oh, this Garuda is a very, genius level of, no. Swamiji will tell you, no, Garuda is not a genius level. He's he's reasonably smart, but he's not a genius. So you can check that out with Swamiji. But it was just Krishna's arrangement. Krishna knew I'd be going along this track, which I didn't know. I did not know. I was the first devotee in the whole movement to actually go into academics for the sole purpose of, illuminating the world of academic, intellectual world of Krishna Bhakti and Prabhupada's teachings. No one did that. It was, people like Madhava came with a doctorate, or Siddhartha was just finishing up his doctorate at Cornell, and Sripad Damodar was finishing his doctorate at University of California, Irvine. No one was crazy enough to finish his BA, which I dropped out of, by the way. I dropped out of I'm always dropping out, but every dropout is a drop in. So, I dropped out to be full-time in the ashram when I was 19. And then I went back to school when Prabhupada showed some interest in establishing a Bhagavat university in Mayapur. But then, so Ravindra Swarup said, why don't you go back and finish your BA, and then you could be the first student there. And so I did, but then in the middle of that, Prabhupada or Jai Pataka, I don't really understand the history, they nixed it, or someone nixed it. So there I am in the middle of getting my BA, and for what? I said, this is ridiculous. Why am I even getting a BA? I just want to be a devotee. So then I conducted a test. I said, let me apply to the best and strongest doctoral programs. I was so naive. You really need to apply for a master's degree, but I didn't know that. Okay, so my ignorance did me some good service. I said, let me apply to University of Chicago, where um, um, Professor Dimmock resided and taught. Edward C. Dimmock, who wrote the foreword to Prabhupada's Bhagavad-gita as it is, and let me also apply to University of Pennsylvania. Well, I got into both programs all the way through the doctorate. So I didn't appreciate it at the time, how unusual and how good that is. I didn't appreciate it. But the way I knew that Krishna wanted this is I did something that I would never recommend any devotee to do today. I started off my statement of purpose, which is incredibly important for the doctorate. I started off by saying, I am an initiated priest of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada is my teacher, and my whole intention of doing graduate studies through a doctorate is to illuminate further these Vaishnava teachings. Wow. Okay, now look, that's a little too straightforward, and no, you don't do that. Okay.
Oh, beautiful.
But I got in, with scholarships, the whole bit. And my parents were also willing to pay. They were very educated people. So I talked to Ravindra about it, and Ravindra said, "Whoa, I can't authorize this. This is beyond my pay grade. You're gonna have to go to Rupanuga, who is the GBC." So I went to Rupanuga in Virginia, and he heard my whole story about how I was, testing the academy out there, whether I should do this. And he said, I think Prabhupada would be very pleased. So he wrote to Prabhupada about me in his last letter. Rupanuga received 100 letters from Prabhupada. And on the 101st letter that he wrote to Prabhupada, before that last summer for him, he wrote to Prabhupada 2 pages with 4 full paragraphs. 1 paragraph just glorifying Prabhupada, 2 paragraphs about the possibility of establishing a museum in D.C., and they've been talking to Ambarish about that. And then the last paragraph was written by Rupanuga, all about me, of all things. And saying that, Garuda Das is a perfect gentleman. Little exaggeration there, but that's just between you and me, okay? We'll just keep this in the family here, okay? And he described how our whole mode was to go into the academy to break the monopoly that Christians have on theology and to show this incredibly rich theological tradition of Krishna Bhakti. I couldn't have expressed it better. And Prabhupada eventually, gave me his blessings. He said, I'm pleased to hear how he is preaching on such a high platform, or high level, I think it was what he said. And he said this to Satsvarup at the time, at the end of the summer, end of his last summer here. So I was the first one. I sort of pioneered the idea that devotees could go back into the slaughterhouse, okay? That was, devotees would come up to me regularly and say, so Garuda, why are you in the slaughterhouse? So it was, it was not well appreciated, but I always remembered, the BI devotees, Madhava, Saraputa, and Swarup Damodar, and who continued to appreciate what I was doing. And I remember that first. So my first year was at the University of Chicago, headed toward the doctoral program. Rupanuga calls me up and says, Garuda, I don't think anyone else is ever going to do this. So I think you need to go to Harvard. I said, Rupanuga, you don't just go to Harvard, okay? You just land. It's not squatters' rights at Harvard. You have to apply. And I just got here at Chicago. So he said, I know. People in the intellectual world know how powerful Chicago is, but Harvard, there is no university in the world that is as famous as Harvard. I said, well, what about Oxford and Cambridge? He said, yeah, they're old schools, but they're not in America. America rules in this industry, and so you need to go to Harvard. So that's why, and that's how I ended up at Harvard.
Prabhu,
Crazy story.
It's crazy story. I can very much appreciate the fact that you were the first devotee to enter back into education solely for the purpose of your service to your Guru Maharaj.
That's right. That's what it was. That's right. And Madhava was right there. Madhava was so encouraging when he was in Boston.
Yes.
Apparently he wasn't in Boston that long, okay, which we determined historically, right?
Yes.
But when I was there, I used to talk to him all the time about, what I was taking at Harvard, and how are your, he would be very interested. How are, your professors taking your presence there, and do they know you're a devotee? Yes, they know I'm a devotee. But Rupanuga chastised me because I was going to the University of Chicago in dhoti, kurta, clean shaven, and a hangman's noose, shika in the back, right? He said, Harvard doesn't give people looking like you doctorates. Mm-hmm. So you have to dress regularly and you have to get rid of the shika. I said, oh, no, I can't do that. I was very attached to my shika. And anyway, eventually I sort of just surrendered to that and looked like everyone else, but, obviously my path and my peers at Harvard and some of my professors knew that I was coming from a Krishna Bhakti, tradition, and that was that was what was my path. That was my seva. That's right.
Maharaj, similarly, so I'm a fallen soul and I can't relate to your glorious devotional activities in any way, but I can relate to your undergrad experience, actually.
Yeah.
Something happened to me very similar.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
Say.
I started attending Stockton University in South Jersey in the Pine Barrens.
I gave a lecture there. I was there. I was a guest speaker there one time. I've been there. It's near Atlantic City.
Correct.
I've been there.
Very small school. I'm surprised to hear that.
There's someone who found my translation of the Bhagavad-gita, and she was anthropology, and she owned a yoga studio. So she was in anthropology and linguistics, yes. And she owned a yoga studio near there. And she said, look, I've never read a Bhagavad-gita so well done as yours. And please consider coming up here. We'll pay for your travel, and I'd like you to give a lecture to the whole university. And that's what I did.
When was that, if you don't mind my asking?
No, oh gosh, when was it? 2000, it was, oh my goodness, I'd have to look at my CV, but I think it's, I don't know, 2008 or something like that, or I just don't quite remember, but it was back in the 2000s, earlier 2000s, I remember, yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I'm very happy to hear that that school had a devotee bless its presence before I got there. So maybe it's set the transcendental atmosphere.
Well, look,
no, for real.
I would love to tell you definitely. Yes, I did that. But and my ego wants to say that, but I can just hear Swamiji saying, come on, Garuda, don't be ridiculous. Okay, and yes, there's no way I could be that powerful for you. But you came there because of your own devotion, and that was part of your path. But go on.
So I did my freshman and sophomore year living on campus, and then basically I was not satisfied. So I left trying to soul search. And then I took a 1 year leave of absence, came back for junior year, my third year. And then after that, I left again. After I completed the third year, I left. I thought that was me dropping out. And that was 2013, 2014. So that was the 2015, 2016 academic year.
Yeah.
And then, like I said, I thought I dropped out. Fast forward to the end of 2018, that's when Maharaj allowed me to move in with him and start doing service. And And as he trained me in the scientific Sankirtan service, I kept thinking, like, would it be helpful if I tried to finish that degree in order to like integrate more and try to show what Maharaj is doing in that way, in that community. So then when COVID started, I wasn't that able to leave my service here and go to classes full time by commuting 40 minutes to Galloway, where the school is. But when COVID started, even schools that weren't ready to go online, as I'm sure you know as a professor, everyone was forced to move online for the whole year, if not longer, no matter what.
That's right.
So that gave me an opportunity to finish a 4th year towards the undergraduate degree online without leaving the house here and my service.
Yeah.
So then, because of my constant switching of majors while I was trying to figure out what the best course of action was, I had to do a 5th year, which I wasn't able to do consecutively because for Stockton, as soon as they had the opportunity, they stopped those online classes and I couldn't commute, like same problem. So then another 3 years passed, actually. And just this past 2024-2025 academic year, I was able to finish the undergraduate degree. I just graduated. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
And the reason was because we found a way to do it online, basically.
Yeah.
And so my point is that Maharaj, I only entered to finish that undergrad degree because it was very relevant for the service to my Guru Maharaj.
Yeah, nice. Very nice.
Sorry.
Very good. Well, it's been quite a journey so far for you.
That was so 5 years of being a full-time student spread over the course of 13 years.
Yeah. Well, hey, there's no formula, no sort of fixed schedule for a bhakta. His service, gets unveiled as we go along, and Krishna's behind it always. So
we were able to start. So Maharaj was saying, why don't you try to start a club or something to, deal with the students in a more organized way and trying to introduce the work of the Bhaktivedanta Institute in Princeton. So we started a club called the Science of Life Club. And we've been able to, we have a YouTube playlist on Maharaj's YouTube channel. And we've been able to have some interdisciplinary dialogues with the faculty members, and a few, like a mathematics professor spoke on faith and mathematics.
Is that right?
Yeah, so we have able to do some interesting stuff there.
Yeah. Excellent. It's really good to hear.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Really good to hear. It's good work.
The grace of the devotees.
I bet he's quite proud of you for doing this good work. A Vaishnava is a rare thing in this world. It's a rare thing in this world. It really is. So you are to be commended for this good work.
I'm just an instrument, nimitta matra.
Yeah, well, you're an instrument, but you're also a special jiva. So that's why I emphasize embodiment and instrumentality. If there was no embodiment, there wouldn't be any instrument to work through. So it's both. But I know devotees usually like to say, I'm not the doer. But in my translation of the Bhagavad-gita, it's not that we're not doing. I mean, obviously we're doing stuff, but in an ultimate sense, we're not the doer. Yes. In my translation, I think I say, we do not act alone. It's only when we think we're the sole actor, the sole doer, then we get into ahankar. Yeah, then that's a problem. I know, because that's the way I think all the time. I think I'm the sole actor here. So anyway, it's good stuff.
Can I follow up on that, Prabhu? Is it okay?
Yeah, please.
So if I want to improperly use the word theory to explain this, it's not a theory, but the theory that Maharaj's 50 years of scientific Sankirtan We call it organic holism.
Nice.
Because Srila Sridhar Maharaj used this term organic whole to describe Krishna all the time, which connects actually to Hegel's philosophy, because Srila Sridhar Maharaj was the one who introduced Hegel to Sripad Puri Maharaj. So, and we, and then we root the Shastric evidence in Om Purnamada Purnamidam, organic whole.
Yes.
So based on what you're saying, the part is acting. It has a special functional role in the context of the organic whole that is Krishna.
Yes.
But to think that the part is isolated from the whole in that action is Maya, is illusion.
That's the ahankar. Exactly.
Hare Krishna.
Yeah, that's excellent. Well put.
Sorry. So this is what, this is what, by Maharaj's grace, now we're trying to move forward, and whatever small thing I can do is this. Hegel has such a big role to play in trying to show some of these Western, more scientifically minded thinkers how to think in terms of an organic whole, where the absolute idea, where that organic whole is substance, yes, which everyone talks about, but is subject as much as substance. This is Maharaj's main point from Hegel. And that Sridhar Maharaj is also supported.
Nice.
That subject, because everyone thinks, the philosophers like to talk about substance, right? But they don't realize that the substance is self-conscious, is a subject.
Right.
And that's where then that's how you talk about personality. So all of a sudden calling Krishna as the organic whole, as the supreme personality of Godhead, is not so strange when it means that substance has a self-relation and is self-conscious. And now we're kind of talking about personhood on a more scientific basis rather than, So anyhow, so I'm praying that by Maharaj's grace, by your grace, Prabhu,
that's good work. Really good work. Such important work.
Hare Krishna.
Wonderful.
Hare Krishna. Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad, Paramahamsa Sripad Bhakti Madhava Puri Maharaj Ki Jai.
Jai.
Jai, His Grace Sripad Bhakti Garuda Das Kaviraj Ki Jai. Hare Krishna.
Whatever. Yeah, that's fine.
Jai.
You're very kind, Krishna Keshavaji, and I can see the kindness and sweetness of Swamiji is probably rubbed off on you a good deal. I think but again, you seem to come with those qualities also. So it's both, I think.
Hare Krishna.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.